This is episode 34 and we're looking at inheritance. So in order to get us started, I already have this employee class going on, and we're actually going to be creating a few, I think maybe two more classes based off of this employee class. So before we look at polymorphism, it's important that we just do a recap of inheritance. So remember, inheritance lets us inherit attributes and methods from another class, right? We saw this in the previous episode. But now polymorphism, it uses those methods to perform different actions or different tasks, and it allows us to perform a single action in different ways. So for instance, basically, let's actually start by looking at the word polymorphism, because poly means many, then morph means shape. So basically, polymorphism allows us to have a certain method that can act differently in different situations. So that's the whole essence of polymorphism. So maybe to actually demonstrate things, let's actually create a private string called department. Then we can also create a private int called year, I think. Then we also want to have getters and setters, so let me just put the getters and setters there. Then I want to just get rid of the Java docs because I don't need them. They will only clutter the code as it were. Alright, so I just put all of them just in case I might want to actually get and set some values from another class. Then let me put my favorite parenthesis style, right, which puts the opening brace at a new line. Alright, so this is what we have going on in the employee class. We have the string, the two attributes, the department and the year. Then we have the get department, set department, get here, set here. So basically these are the getters and setters that are actually going to allow us to retrieve these two private fields. So here we have the getters and setters, then here we have the attributes, as it were. Alright, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to create another class called permanent employee. Then within this class is actually going to extend the employee class. So this basically allows us to have access to all of these attributes and methods, as it were. So what I'm also going to do is I'm also going to come back to the employee class. Then just beneath the getters and setters, I'm just going to have a public void method called display information. Then this method is simply going to sys out so the employee is just going to display information about the employee. The employee is, then I can say plus get department, we have get department there. Rather, let's say the employee works in. Then we are also going to have another line which says the employee joined in the year. Then we'll do get year right here. Alright, so that's what we have going on. What did I do there? Alright, so then inside of the permanent employee method, let's actually have a main method, as it were. Okay, I'm getting an error. What's going on here? method header name, public static void name. What's going on there? Alright, so yeah, that's been taken care of. Then inside of the permanent employee class, I'm actually going to instantiate an object called manager. Then I'm going to call the constructor, so manager. Then we say manager dot set, let's set the department to management. Then let's also change the year that the manager joined, so set year to 2020. Then what we can also do, rather we can just sys out this really. No, actually what we can do is we can then call the public method, which is called display information. So let's do that. So let's say manager dot display information. All right, then let's actually compile and run this and see what we get. So Java C permanent employee dot Java. Then we simply want to run this, and so it's going to say that the employee works in management, the employee joined in the year 2020. All right, so it's working as you'd expect, right? So this is just the essence of inheritance. But now what I'm going to do is, inside of this particular method, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create another method which is called display information. So in here I'm going to say public void display information. Then I'm just going to do something simple really. I'm just going to output this is being called from permanent employee class. Right, then I'm just simply going to compile it one more time, then run it. So what's going to happen is all right, so I think I fixed what I wanted to. I fixed my code right here. The change that I made is instead of calling of instantiating an employee class or an employee method, or rather the manager class as a type of employee, I changed it to a type of permanent employee. So this will allow me to demonstrate the concept of polymorphism much better. Because initially, if I create it as an employee object, it's actually going to just call this particular display information method, as it were. But if I instantiate it as a permanent employee object, it's actually going to extend this functionality. But then again, it's also going to look within itself for any other methods that might be called in that regard. So let me just explain what I did right here. So permanent employee, we create a permanent employee object called manager, but you need to remember that permanent employee class is actually it extends the employee class. So it means that everything that you see inside of this particular class is available to us right here because of this extends keyword. Then we now create a manager object of type permanent employee. Then we then set the department, and again the reason why we are able to set the department is thanks to inheritance. We are actually inheriting this set department and this set here methods from the employee class. But then I want you to notice now that when we get to line 8 there, we have a method called display information right here. This is the implementation within this permanent employee class, and we also have the same method right here inside of the employee class. So since the permanent employee extends employee, right, and then goes on to add its additional functionality, when we run this code you're actually going to realize that what we get, let me just clear out the console there. This is being called from the employee class. So display information. So the reason why we are no longer getting that is because we've overridden. All right, so what's going to happen is that you see down here in the console that when we run the permanent employee program, that is the main method right here, we are actually instantiating inserting the department, inserting the year, right? But now when we get to this part where we call the display information method, it's actually not going to call from the super class, right? It's not calling this method right here, which is inside of the employee class, but what it's now calling is this one, which is the implementation within the same class. So that's the concept of polymorphism. It allows us to extend or to inherit objects, to inherit attributes as well as methods from the parent class or the super class, but then we are able to also apply our own functionality, and that is custom to this particular type of class, right? So you'll notice that when we started the video, we said that polymorphism uses those methods to perform different tasks, and this allows us to perform a single action in different ways. So we know that for an employee, you would want to display their information, right? But for the permanent employee, we might actually have a different implementation, or rather additional implementation that might not be catered for by the display information method that is within the employee class. So we can actually develop or rather write our own implementation within this particular permanent employee class. Then we instantiate the object of the same type, and it's going to look or rather override this particular method, as it were. So that's polymorphism. So it's actually going to do the same thing, but it now adds a little bit of additional functionality to its that is in the implementation right here. So that's the concept of polymorphism, right? So this is particularly useful. Maybe say, for instance, you are writing a program that calculates the area of different shapes, right? So you can have say a class called shape. Then within the shape method, you can have dimensions, like maybe say for a rectangles, you are going to have the length and the width, right? Then you might also want to have a square class that inherits from the rectangle method. So you'd realize that maybe the calculation might want to be different, or might need to be different depending on the situation. So that is the whole essence of polymorphism. We have the same method, right? But it does something that is different from the method that is being implemented within the parent class, as we've seen in this example right here. So yeah, I think that's just about it for this episode. I'll see you in the next one.